Hello and welcome to my talk. Thanks for having me. I will tell you something about Gickup and how to keep your repositories safe. On the agenda we have what is Gickup, why should you use it, how can it help you, how to run it, and then I will show you an example and a few demos. That's me. I'm Andy. I have a degree in software design. I work as a DevOps engineer for 10 years now, and I just love to code, mostly in Go and Python, also in Rust, but I'm not that good in Rust yet. So, what is Gickup? Gickup is a tool that I wrote back in 2021. It backups Git repositories for you. It's written in Go, so you can easily compile it for a variety of different CPU architectures and operating systems. So here we have the documentation and the repository. So if you want to have a look at it, have a go. So what is supported? I support GitHub, GitLab, Git, Fortio, Gox, OneDev, Bitbucket, SourceHut, Local, and any type of repository. So as long as you can provide a URL, username, password, or a token, or an SSH key, it is possible to backup any kind of repository, any kind of Git repository. As you can see, we have source and destination, which means the source we backup from there and destination we backup to there. We'll show you later what that exactly means. So, why should I use it? Answer is fairly simple. Automation. You just configure it once and it's done. It takes care of everything for you. So if you create a new repository, you don't need to add that anywhere, because it just grabs everything from the hoster that you own or that you have access to or that you want and backups it for you. Easy. So how can you run it? There are different ways to run it. You can either download the precompiled binaries from the repository itself, from the release tab. You can use Homebrew to install it. You can also run it as a Docker container, install it from the AUR if you're an Arch user, or you can use Nix to install it. So how does Gickup work? Gickup connects to the API of the hoster. In this case, I used GitHub, and it grabs everything that you want to get. So if you add a user that you want to backup, it will grab every repository of that user that it can get. For example, if it's not your repository, if the user has some private repositories, you don't have access to that, it won't backup that. But if you add your token and you have private repositories, it will create a backup of them. After that, as soon as it gets all of the repositories that you want to backup, it will decide on your configuration how to continue. Either create local backups or mirror them to another Git hoster. This is how you configure it. The configuration is in YAML. You define a source, in this case GitHub. And as you can see, I only added the token because I don't need anything more if it's just for me, if it's just for my user. Because it authenticates against GitHub, also a variety of other hosters, they have a similar approach. You provide the token and it authenticates with the token. After that, the hoster already knows who you are and what your repositories are, and then you get exactly that back. And then you can see the destination. I chose a local backup in my home directory /backup, and you can see I used structured true. That means it will create a easy to understand structure of the backup. So it will use the URL of the hoster, in this case github.com, then subdirectory is the username, and the next subdirectories then are the repositories. Or we can mirror them, in this case to Git. I will show you later how that works. And here you can see user and create organization, which means it will create an organization called GitHub if it's not there yet. So now let's do a few demos. So I will first of all, I will create a backup of my GitHub user. YAML. Source, GitHub, user, that's me. Then destination is local, path, my home directory, backup, and structured is true. Okay, now let's check if we already have that directory. No. So let's run Gickup. That will take a little bit because I have a whole lot of repositories. And yeah, now it backups all of my public repositories because I didn't add a token to it. Okay, so now it's done. Now we can check it out. The directory is there, github.com, copy Spencer. Then, yeah, as you can see, we have 56 repositories backed up. And if we go to Gickup, for example, you can see it's a normal repository. Okay, so, and now I will show you how to mirror the repositories to another hoster. So I first need to start the container. Docker compose up. Up -d. Okay. I already have a repository there. That's for the demo a little bit later or after that one. So let's go to applications, create a token. Basically, I need organization, then repository and user. Here is my token. YAML. URL is localhost. User is GitHub. Create org, set to true, and now we add my token. Okie dokie, and run it again. And now if we switch to Fortune, you can see, oh, look, there are more repositories. Before we only had one. We have an organization called GitHub, and here we have a bunch of repositories. Yeah, that's still going. Okay, almost done. And no, we don't. So, okay. Yep. Now we mirrored the repositories. Now let's have a look what happens if you accidentally would delete a repository. Let's create a backup first of Fortune. So we will just reuse that one. Okay. Done. Paste. We don't need that anymore. Then we don't want the GitHub organization. We don't need this one. And I just want to grab Gickup. Okay, now we have a backup of it. Let's quickly check the backup. Gickup. Looks fine. Okay, so let's head over to Fortune and Gickup. And now we will just delete that. Oops, now it's gone. So, if that happens to you, what can you do to restore it? In this case, you can just recreate it, create a repository, then grab the origin, change into the directory of the backup, Gickup, then add the remote, let's call it restore, and then we just do a git push -u restore and -- all. All of the branches are now restored, and now use tags to also get the tags back. Okay, now we also restored the tags. Let's go to Fortune, restore, bada bim, everything is back. So we have all of my branches back, we have all the tags. Yep, and that's it. So I'm at the end of my presentation. Thanks a lot for listening, and also a huge thanks to Michael Cate for organizing all of that. So if you want to keep in touch, this is the QR code is my GitHub account, and these are all my socials. So if you want to keep in touch, please do so.